You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio here on AM 860 WWDB, the Delaware Valley's only money talk radio. This is Herb Cohen with my co-host David Bernstein from RLS Associates. And we'd like to introduce to you a gentleman by the name of Tripp Davis, who is the president of L.D. Davis. Hi, Tripp.
Hi, it's great to be here today.
Thank you. How old is this company, L.D. Davis?
The business was started in 1924 by my grandfather, so we're in our 82nd year in business.
82nd year, and it was started by your grandfather. When the business was started, what was the original premise? Why was the business started, and what was the original business all about?
My grandfather passed in 1977, and unfortunately we didn't have all his thoughts behind it, but it was started as a stenciling business. He took glycerin and glue and made a slurry, impregnated it into burlap material, put a release paper on it, sold it in rolls, and if you were a stenciling company or a monument company, you would cut your name out, you would heat this, put it to the stenciling, sandblast it, and peel it off, and then you would have a monument. So he was in the stenciling business. And
where did he take it from there?
The stenciling business was doing very well for the first about 10 or 15 years. He bought an old foundry in the Bristol, PA area, and he was doing wonderfully until about 1939, and he was put out of business almost overnight by a rubberized product. But at that time, he'd been making one of the key ingredients was raw glue. He was rendering the hides of coney stock, which is rabbit fur. So he had a good friend in the Philadelphia area that knew that they used that same product to make rigid boxes. So almost overnight, L.D. Davis Industries became not a stencil company, but selling glue to make rigid setup boxes.
So he went from thinking he was going out of business overnight into a new business. That's a true entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And how has the company changed since then? I mean, management and business-wise?
The business really, through the remainder of the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, really primarily sold to anybody that was making a rigid setup box for tie boxes, cotton-filled jewelry boxes. We even made products for people like Hartman Luggage, Skyway Luggage, to make steamer trunks, to make attaché cases. But it became fairly clear in the 60s that the packaging industry was changing with the onset of folding cartons and corrugated boxes. It just wasn't as cost-effective to make a setup box. So again, now my father was in the business, and it was his turn to see how L.D. Davis needed to change to survive. And we had an opportunity to get really into the graphic arts, really the bookbinding business. A lot of the same things that you need to make a box, you can make a hardbound case book like a John Gresham novel or Danielle Steele. So again, as part of our business went away in the setup box industry, we became one of the big suppliers to the graphic arts industry.
And how was it different under your father's leadership versus your grandfather's?
Well, it's always very different, I think, when you have the founder who started the business, who has very distinct ideas, that he started the business without any help, and he could probably run it without any help. My father had a much more collegial idea of how to run the business. He brought in a wonderful management team in the 80s that really helped the business grow. And my father was always very high on bringing in people smarter than you and let them do their job and really could help the business grow. And that's exactly really what it did under his leadership. Went from a very kind of parochial family business to selling not only throughout the United States, but picked up some business in Europe and even in the Pacific Rim.
How old were you when your dad took over the business?
My dad took over the business January 7th, 1977, when my grandfather passed away. That's how I know my father got the business. And I was about 13 at the time.
You were. And so you were aware a little bit about what was going on in the business. Were you working in the company?
My father always talked about business. I mean, like most family businesses, we talk shop around the table every night. As a matter of fact, I think I knew by the time I was 10 what my father made for a living. So he was very transparent and felt like this was what was going to make or break the family. So we were all pretty in tune about what was going on.
And was it clear to you that you were going to be in the family business?
It really wasn't. My father and I had a wonderful relationship, and he, I think, wanted both my sister and I, if we had any interest in being in the business, that would be great, but there was no pressure. I certainly, going through college, when I came out of college, I didn't go into the family business right away. I got a phone call at one Thanksgiving when he was in his later 50s, asking me to decide if I was going to come back in. If not, I think he would have taken it in another direction, probably looking for possible suitors to buy the business.
And when you told him that you were interested in coming in, I assume that's about when you committed?
Yeah, exactly. I had about 6 months to finish up, and then I went down to one of our main manufacturing facilities in North Carolina, and I worked the second shift for about a year. And I think that was my last litmus test to see if I would put up with running the production shift on the second shift. And after that, I actually did go back to Penn State, got my MBA, and then I came back in full-time in 1990.
I just want to pick up on something you said. You're the son of the president, and you got the second shift?
Absolutely.
You didn't even qualify for first shift?
No. Absolutely not. You know, everything was handed down from my grandfather, which was, you know, you need to know how to do every job. And so, you know, every job was running the second shift with all its foibles and problems. And it was great training ground. So there's not too much in the business, having been around it probably for 30 some years, that I don't have a pretty good feel for what should be happening.
And it seems like the first two presidents each had their inflection point where they had to make a change of the business. Have you had that yourself as well?
It's coming. The big issue is we are the largest producer of protein products in the U.S., and that in 250 gets you a small biscotti at Starbucks. We're a very big fish in a very small pond that's getting smaller. As you can imagine, with things like iPods, with things like the Kindle Reader, and textbooks and reference books are all going away. So the main part of our business is obviously going away. The interesting thing about our product is that it's very sustainable and it's environmentally friendly. You could eat our product if you had to. So there's a lot of interest right now in how we can take our product out to the packaging world to seal and to make things like cereal boxes or Puffs tissue boxes that's got 100% post-consumer waste. It's got soya ink, and it's now made with environmentally friendly protein product.
So it's new applications for an existing technology. Hopefully that will continue to sustain it as other markets dwindle.
Absolutely. That's our plan.
Very similar to what's happened to the prior generations.
Exactly right.
And are you continuing your dad's spirit of the team building leader?
Absolutely. That was a great example my father led, and I work with terrific people throughout my organization that, you know, really makes it run well. It's certainly no one person can make the organization prosper like it has. So I've got a wonderful top team, and because we have two facilities, one in North Carolina, one in Atlanta, that I don't live near, I have great people even at the management level that make sure that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I don't get down there enough, as they tell me, but so I know things are in good hands.
And is it a different management? When did you move your production down?
We started to have some issues in the original facility in Bristol where we needed to expand, and we just didn't think it was the right area to expand, given the Burlington-Bristol borough was getting bigger. And from what we do, it's we're better to have fewer people around. So we had the opportunity to move outside Charlotte, where we had 5 really key raw material vendors, to move to that area. They're only about 3 hours drive away by tractor trailer. So that's how we kind of chose to get down into that area.
Were you president at this time?
No, I was not. I was that building broke ground in the late 70s, early 80s, and I was still in college at the time, and we were running production in both areas. But it became very clear that we would move on to North Carolina, and that would be our main manufacturing location.
And in terms of your role now as president, what is it that you do, and how do you think that's different than what maybe your grandfather and your father did before you?
Well, certainly my grandfather was the founder entrepreneur, so he, you know, wore a lot of different hats. My father's true love always was the manufacturing and production side. He always used to say, you know, I'd love to take the work out of work. When I came back from grad school, one of the things that I hadn't really done was work in sales. And that was really always been, I guess, my biggest piece was the sales and marketing side. I think when you go out and talk to customers, you really find out what people think about your business. Because our product, I guess, fortunately, unfortunately, has changed dramatically, the production side hasn't been that big of an issue for me because we do it fairly well. We've gotten help over the years with organizations like the DVIRC down in North Carolina. They have a similar organization to try to help us run lean, and we think we do that fairly well. But my focus is really new opportunities for the business.
And Tripp, what is your website for the company if someone wants to learn more about it?
Great. Yeah, our website's pretty easy. It's www.lddavis.com.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
I really enjoy going out and meeting the customers, finding out really what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, and quite frankly, where the opportunities are. I think my last question with every customer is, what do you have new coming down the pike? Is there anything we could help you with? And sometimes maybe throwaway question, someone might say, geez, we're coming out with a new opportunity to stick credit cards to felt. Do you think you might have anything that could do that for us? and that's how that's what I like, kind of finding the new opportunities.
Who do you talk to about what to do and what not to do in running the business?
Good question. I obviously have a couple of key people within my organization, my director of sales and marketing, my CFO, and they certainly help out a lot. Besides that, one of the first things I did when I became president in 2000 was I put on an outside advisory board. So I have 3 outside individuals that we get together once a quarter, along with my CFO and my wife and my mother, because they all have a lot of perspective about the business, and they kind of give me a mile wide and kind of an inch long. I also belong to an organization called Vistage, which is a group every month. We get together with other CEOs and presidents and get to talk about the different business issues each other has, and we bring in outside speakers.
And real quickly, how did you decide how to compose those 3 outside advisors?
There's a great book written, and I forget the name of the book right now, that's kind of like the Bible of how to put together outside advisory boards. And I just kind of followed that word for word, kind of write a prospectus of who I was looking for, what would be expected of them. And then, I thought about who I would need on the board to help me. And I thought I would want somebody with some good financial background. I wanted somebody that had done what I had done, that was maybe 10 years older than I, family business background. And then I wanted somebody from kind of the M&A world, because I was looking to grow the business not organically as much as I was looking for maybe opportunities to buy and bolt on.
Excellent. We've had the opportunity of speaking with a gentleman by the name of Tripp Davis, who's the president of L.D. Davis here on Executive Leaders Radio.